Okay, today what we're working on is a 1986 Cadillac Cimarron, which is pretty much the same thing as a 86 Chevrolet Cavalier, but this one has a V6 in it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a major tune-up on this car. And this thing came to me on a wrecker about, I'd say about 50 miles away. I have a friend that works at the casino up there in Blackhawk, and he has a friend that needed some auto repairs done on a older car, and he recommended me, so she sent it down to me on a tow truck. It runs right now, but it needs some help. So we're going to see what we can do to make it run the best it possibly can. You can tell this car needs help. Poor thing. I'm gonna do my best to get it to run good. I can tell it needs a few things, so we're gonna get started on that now. Okay, looks like I've gotten myself into what I call another can of worms. It's not impossible, but it's kind of a pain in the butt to fix, but we'll get it taken care of. What we notice on this car so far, this 1986 Cadillac Cimarron with a 2.8 liter fuel injected V6, is the first thing we notice is somebody has replaced the plug wires on this car. So we know that because these are all nice and gray and pretty and new looking, but they ain't going to the right plugs and into the distributor cap, because that's why it's misfiring and stuff. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and make sure that these plug wires are in the correct position. And how we do that is, I've already looked up the firing order online, and what I've come up with is, here's the cap. We're looking straight down at it from the driver's side. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the firing order on this car. And the firing order for the engine is 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6. Gotta remember, it's a 6-cylinder, so you gotta have those numbers corresponding with the correct hole on the engine to make it run properly. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure that those wires go into the right plugs coming from the distributor cap. That's what we're gonna do now. Here's number 1 plug. Goes right here. Right here. This will be number 2. Number 2's right there. Okay, where we're at now is we have removed the EGR valve, and the EGR valve is back here by the back 3 plugs. There we go. I was able to get the back one with the socket, and then the one that was closest to me I was able to get with a wrench. So what we're doing now is we're cleaning that EGR valve. And once you're back here, you got to make sure that your plug wires, after you replace the plugs, you have to make sure that the plug wires are not leaning against anything that's going to get hot, such as the exhaust manifold and the heat shield and all that. Make sure those plug wires are away from that stuff, just to make sure they don't get burnt and then cause a misfire. So we got that out of the way. So that's where we're working on now. We got that EGR valve out. We broke a little plastic elbow that goes from the EGR valve to the vacuum hose, but that's no problem. We'll get that fixed in no time. And then we still have to do the front 3 plugs. See them right there, 1, 2, 3. We're going to get those next, but right now we got the EGR valve. I'll show you what the EGR valve looks like. This is the EGR valve. It's really crusty in there. Really nasty. So we got to scrape all that out, clean it all up, make sure that this actuator in the middle is moving like it's supposed to. It's the diaphragm is not easy to grab onto right here, as they are in other vehicles, but we'll make this go up and down and clean out these ports and make it move like it's supposed to, free of anything that's restricting it. And what would be restricting it would be the carbon that is built up on the rectangle port as well as the round port. So we're going to work on that here in a few. Jiggle up and down. And when it gets all the way out, just go slowly so you don't drop it. You're almost. It's still in there. Keep going.
Dang. What the heck?
That's a long-winded rascal. What's your name?
My name
It's Destiny.
yeah.
And what are you doing right now?
I'm taking out the spark plug.
Taking out the spark plugs on a 1986 Cadillac Cimarron. Okay, my turn. I want to work on it for a little bit. Or unless you want to keep going. You're almost there. Keep going. Keep going for a little bit longer. Okay, we are now on the distributor cap. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and remove the ignition module. Make sure that it's in good condition, because there's a new one that came with this car, as in somebody purchased one and had it in the trunk. And if this one looks original, then we're going to replace it with the new one, just to make sure that this thing starts every time this lady needs it to start. So we got the cap off right now. There's 2 screws holding that down. This is it right here. And now we're going for the module. Okay, that black thing right there with those 2 plugs plugged into it, that's the ignition module. We're going to go ahead and lift that up right now and make sure that it's in good condition. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, we know somebody's replaced this already once because there's white lithium grease all over it. So we're going to clean this off and put dielectric grease on it instead of this lithium. Dielectric grease. Squeeze about that much on, then smooth it out with your finger. On the rotor, just go ahead and take a little Scotch-Brite to the edge. Just like brand new. Now we're going to lube up the pulleys. How we do that? Penetrating lubricant. A hose that has a little straw on the end of it. Long needle nose pliers. Look at this. Jeez. baking soda and water. We'll just take a wire brush to this. Battery corrosion preventive spray. Okay, we have a respectable idle now. That was after putting all the plug wires back in the correct position first, then pulling the distributor out and setting it in the correct position. That's what that's for right there. It's pointing at the number one plug right here. So we got it sounding like it wants to run pretty well now, so all we have to do now is set the timing. We do have a respectable idle. Coolant looks like it's at the operating temperature. You can tell we need some exhaust work on this thing. Alright, the coolant fan came on. Good deal. That's what I was waiting for. Now we're going to set the timing. Now I can finally bring my car back in. This one's running pretty good. Runs better than it looks, pretty much guarantee you that. Does need some exhaust work, but I'm going to ask the customer and see if it's something she wants me to do while I have it in my possession, or if she just wants the car back and she'll do it whenever she has time to. But it sounds like it's purring like a kitty right now. It's running really nice. And this is a 1986 Cadillac Cimarron.